The maid's trembling voice echoed through the hallway. "Please don't lift my dress, sir." James stood frozen, his hand suspended in mid-air, as the terrible truth dawned on him. What he'd mistaken for theft was something far more devastating, and in that moment, his perception of everything changed forever. If this opening caught your attention, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that shine light on the hidden struggles many face in silence. James Sullivan hadn't planned on becoming a single father at 34. 6 months ago, his wife Elaine had walked out, leaving him alone with their 8-year-old daughter, Lily. The divorce papers arrived 3 weeks later with a note explaining she needed to find herself somewhere that didn't include them. The first months were a blur of takeout dinners, missed school meetings, and a house that descended further into chaos each day. James tried, God knows he tried, but balancing his demanding job as a financial analyst with single parenthood proved nearly impossible. His once immaculate home now resembled a war zone, with dishes piled high and laundry scattered across every surface. "Daddy, my uniform is dirty again," Lily said one morning, holding up her school blouse spotted with yesterday's spaghetti sauce. James ran his fingers through his unwashed hair. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. We'll figure something out." That evening, after Lily had gone to bed, James scrolled through a local housekeeping service website. His mother had suggested hiring help weeks ago, but pride had kept him from admitting he couldn't manage alone. Now, staring at the mountain of dishes in his kitchen sink, he finally relented. The agency sent Maria Delgado the following Monday. She was in her early 40s with kind eyes and a quiet efficiency that transformed the Sullivan household within hours. By the time James returned from work that first day, the floors gleamed, the laundry was folded, and the air smelled of lemon polish instead of stale takeout. "This is amazing," he said, turning in a slow circle in his spotless living room. Maria smiled modestly. "It's my job, Mr. Sullivan." Over the next few weeks, Maria became an essential part of their lives. She came 3 times a week, bringing order to their chaos. Lily adored her, especially when Maria taught her to make empanadas from her grandmother's recipe. For the first time since Elaine left, their house felt like a home again. "You're a lifesaver," James told her one evening as she prepared to leave. "I don't know how we managed before you." "Everyone needs help sometimes," Maria replied with a gentle smile. "Even the strongest people." James noticed Maria always wore the same 3 dresses to work, simple, modest garments that reached her ankles. She arrived precisely on time each day, worked diligently, and left promptly when her hours were complete. Unlike the previous housekeeper the agency had sent, who spent more time on her phone than cleaning, Maria never wasted a moment. One rainy Tuesday in April, James came home early with a pounding headache. He'd planned to take some medication and rest before Lily returned from her after-school program. He didn't expect to find Maria still there, though it was past her usual departure time. He found her in the laundry room, frantically searching through the dryer. "Maria? Is everything okay?" She startled, clutching a hand to her chest. "Mr. Sullivan. I didn't hear you come in. Sorry, I didn't mean to frighten you. Are you looking for something?" Maria's eyes darted nervously. "It's nothing important. I should go, I've stayed too long." As she hurried past him, James noticed something fall from the pocket of her dress, a small silver locket. He bent to retrieve it. "Maria, wait. You dropped this." She turned back, relief washing over her face. "Thank you. It's very precious to me." James handed her the locket, noticing how her fingers trembled as she took it. "Are you sure everything's all right?" "Yes, of course." She tucked the locket safely away. "I must go now. My bus. It's pouring outside. Let me drive you home." Maria shook her head firmly. "No, thank you. The bus is fine." James frowned. "It's no trouble. I insist." Please, Mr. Sullivan. Her voice took on an edge of desperation. I prefer the bus. Something in her tone made James step back. All right. If you're sure. After Maria left, James couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He'd noticed other odd behaviors, how she never accepted offers to join them for lunch, how she flinched at sudden movements, how she always wore long sleeves despite the warming spring weather. The next day, James returned from work to find Lily sitting at the kitchen table, her face troubled. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" he asked, setting down his briefcase. "I think Maria's hurt," Lily said quietly. James felt his stomach tighten. "What do you mean?" "I went to hug her today, and she made a hurt sound. When I asked if she was okay, she said she fell down some stairs." Lily looked up at him with worried eyes. "But Daddy, I saw purple marks on her arm when her sleeve went up. They didn't look like falling marks." That night, James couldn't sleep. His mind kept returning to Maria's frightened eyes, her reluctance to accept rides, the way she startled at loud noises. As a financial analyst, he was trained to notice patterns, and a disturbing one was emerging. The following week, James arrived home early again, this time intentionally. He found Maria in Lily's room, making the bed with hospital corners as precise as any military barracks. "Maria, can we talk for a moment?" She nodded, following him to the living room but remaining standing even after he gestured toward the sofa. "I've noticed you seem uncomfortable sometimes," James began carefully. "If there's anything wrong, anything at all, I'd like to help." Maria's expression closed like a shutter. "Everything is fine, Mr. Sullivan. I should finish my work." As she turned to leave, James noticed a dark stain on the back of her dress, a stain that looked disturbingly like blood. "Maria, you're bleeding." She froze, one hand instinctively reaching behind her. "It's nothing." "That's not nothing." "Let me see." "Please don't lift my dress, sir." Her voice came out as a whisper, trembling with fear and shame. James stood frozen, his hand suspended in mid-air, as the terrible truth dawned on him. What he'd mistaken for an injury from theft or clumsiness was something far more devastating, and in that moment, his perception of everything changed forever. "Maria," he said softly, lowering his hand. "Who did this to you?" "The dam broke." Tears streamed down Maria's face as she sank onto the sofa, her body shaking with silent sobs. James sat beside her, careful to maintain distance, and waited. "My husband," she finally whispered. "Eduardo. He has a temper." James felt sick. "How long has this been happening?" 23 years of marriage," Maria said, wiping her tears with shaking hands. "It wasn't always this bad. After he lost his job last year, the drinking got worse. And then his fists." "Have you told anyone?" "The police?" Maria's bitter laugh held no humor. "My immigration papers aren't complete. Eduardo says if I go to the police, I'll be deported. My children would stay here with him." Fresh tears welled in her eyes. "My youngest is only 12. I cannot leave him with Eduardo." James struggled to contain his anger. "There are organizations that can help, Maria. Legal aid, shelters." "You don't understand," she interrupted. "Eduardo checks my phone. He times my bus routes. If I'm late, he—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "The blood on your dress. He pushed me into the counter last night. The corner caught my back." Maria's voice had gone flat, emotionless. "I couldn't reach to bandage it properly." James felt helpless in the face of such calculated cruelty. "Let me help you clean and bandage it, at least. I have a first aid kit." Maria hesitated, then nodded. In the bathroom, she sat on the edge of the tub while James carefully cleaned the ugly gash just above her waistline. Neither spoke as he applied antibiotic ointment and covered the wound with gauze. "Thank you," Maria whispered when he finished. "This can't continue, Maria," James said gently. "You and your children deserve safety. What choice do I have?" The resignation in her voice broke his heart. That night, after Maria had gone, James made phone calls. To a college friend who'd become an immigration attorney. To a domestic violence advocate his firm had once done pro bono work for. To his mother, who'd volunteered at a women's shelter for years. The next day, he approached Maria with a plan. "I've spoken to some people who can help," he told her. "If you're willing." Fear flashed across her face. "Eduardo will know." "Not if we're careful," James assured her. "My friend Lisa works with immigrants in your situation. She says your children are American citizens, right? They were born here?" Maria nodded. "Then you have rights too, as their mother. Eduardo has been lying to you." Hope and doubt warred in Maria's expression. "But where would we go? How would I support my children?" "There's a shelter with a confidential location. They have legal advocates, counselors, everything you need to get started. And..." James hesitated. "I'd like to continue employing you, Maria. You've been a godsend to Lily and me. We can arrange for safe transportation, flexible hours around your needs." Tears filled Maria's eyes again, but different tears this time. "Why would you do this for me? You barely know me." James thought of his daughter, of the world he wanted her to grow up in. "Because it's right. And because no one should have to live in fear." The plan took shape over the next 2 weeks. James's immigration attorney friend met Maria during her work hours at James's house, documenting her bruises and taking her statement. The domestic violence advocate helped her create a safety plan. James's mother helped gather essentials for Maria's children, clothes, school supplies, comfort items, that could be stored at James's house until they were needed. The hardest part was waiting for the right moment. Eduardo worked night shifts at a warehouse 3 days a week. On those nights, Maria had a small window of freedom while he slept during the day and her older children were at school. They decided that would be their opportunity. The day arrived with a tension that hung in the air like an approaching storm. Maria arrived at work pale but resolute. "Are you sure you want to do this today?" James asked. She nodded. "If I wait longer, I might lose my courage." At precisely 1:30 p.m., James drove Maria to her apartment complex. They parked a block away, out of sight of her unit. The domestic violence advocate, Tanya, waited in another car with James's mother. "Remember the plan," Tanya said as they gathered on the sidewalk. 15 minutes maximum. Essential documents and medications only. Nothing he'll notice missing immediately. Maria led them up the back stairwell to her second-floor apartment. Her hands shook so badly she could barely fit the key in the lock. Inside, the apartment was small but meticulously clean, Maria's touch evident in every corner. "The children's birth certificates and social security cards are hidden in my spice cabinet," she whispered. "My youngest's asthma medication is in the bathroom." They moved quickly, gathering the vital documents, medications, and a few small photos of the children that Eduardo wouldn't immediately miss. James stood watch near the door, his heart pounding with every passing minute. 12 minutes in, they heard it, the sound of a key in the front door lock. Maria froze, her face draining of color. "Eduardo," she mouthed silently. James's mother pulled Maria into the nearest bedroom while Tanya grabbed the document folder. James remained by the door, mind racing through options. The door swung open to reveal a stocky man with bloodshot eyes. Eduardo Delgado stared at James in confusion, then growing anger. "Who the hell are you? Where's Maria?" His words slurred slightly, he'd been drinking. James stepped forward, blocking Eduardo's view of the hallway where the women had disappeared. "Mr. Delgado?" I'm James Sullivan. Maria works for my family. Eduardo's eyes narrowed suspiciously. What are you doing in my house? I came to discuss extending Maria's hours, James improvised. She's been invaluable to us, and I wanted to offer her a raise. Without talking to me first? Eduardo's voice rose dangerously. Nothing happens without my permission. Nothing. James heard a small sound from the bedroom. Someone had moved. Eduardo heard it too, his head snapping toward the hallway. Who else is here? He demanded, trying to push past James. James stood his ground. Just my associate. We were about to leave. Eduardo shoved him hard, sending James stumbling backward. Maria, he bellowed. Get out here now. James regained his balance as Eduardo stormed toward the bedroom. Without thinking, James grabbed his arm. Mr. Delgado, please. The punch came out of nowhere, connecting with James's jaw and sending him reeling. Pain exploded across his face as he crashed into the wall. Through watering eyes, he saw Eduardo yanking open the bedroom door. You think you can hide from me? Eduardo roared. In my own house? James struggled to his feet as Tanya emerged from another room, phone in hand. The police are on their way, she announced firmly. Mr. Delgado, I suggest you step back. Eduardo whirled toward her, rage contorting his features. This is my house. You have no right. We have every right to help Maria and her children escape your abuse, James's mother said, stepping protectively in front of Maria. It ends today. Eduardo lunged toward them, but James intercepted him, grappling him away from the women. They crashed into the coffee table, glass shattering around them. Eduardo was stronger, fueled by alcohol and rage, but James fought with the desperate knowledge of what was at stake. Run, he shouted to the women. Get to the car. Through the struggle, James was vaguely aware of the women rushing past toward the door. Eduardo saw them too and fought harder, landing a vicious blow to James's ribs that left him gasping. You're dead, Eduardo snarled, breaking free and charging toward the door. James summoned his remaining strength and tackled Eduardo from behind. They hit the floor hard, Eduardo's head connecting with the edge of an end table. He went limp beneath James. Panting, James rolled away, checking to make sure Eduardo was still breathing. He was, but unconscious, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Sirens wailed in the distance as James staggered to his feet and out the door. In the parking lot, he found the women in Tanya's car, Maria trembling violently in the back seat. Are you hurt? His mother asked, examining his swelling jaw. I'll live, James managed, wincing. The police are coming. We need to be here when they arrive. The next hours passed in a blur of police statements, medical examinations, and legal discussions. Eduardo was arrested for assault, both against James and the documented abuse of Maria. With Tanya's organization providing an advocate and James's friend offering legal representation, Maria was able to tell her story without fear of deportation. By nightfall, Maria and her children were settled in the confidential shelter, Eduardo was in custody, and James sat in his kitchen holding an ice pack to his throbbing jaw. You could have been killed, his mother scolded gently, placing a cup of tea before him. I couldn't do nothing, James replied. Not when I knew what was happening. Lily appeared in the doorway, eyes wide at her father's bruised face. Daddy? Grandma said you helped Maria get away from a bad man. James opened his arms, and Lily climbed onto his lap. That's right, sweetheart. Like the princes in my stories who fight dragons? James smiled despite the pain. Something like that. Except Maria is the real hero. It takes incredible courage to leave when you're scared. Lily considered this. Will we still see Maria? I hope so, once things settle down. She needs time to heal and take care of her children. Good, Lily declared. Because she makes the best empanadas, and she needs to teach me the secret ingredient. 3 months later, Maria sat in James's living room, watching her youngest son play video games with Lily. Her older children were adapting well to their new schools, and Maria had moved into transitional housing provided by Tanya's organization. Eduardo remained in custody, facing multiple charges. The divorce papers were finalized yesterday, Maria told James, a mixture of relief and sadness in her voice. 23 years, ended with a signature. How do you feel? James asked.